I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honda that he's doing police of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning at 8 minutes after 8 o'clock, and this is the Situation Room, the third hour of conversations that we need to have and that we must through and through. And even as we do, let me remind you that when you're thinking about pursuing your dreams, every goal set and every milestone achieved, there's a partner who stands with you, steadfast, unwavering, not going anywhere. And I&M Bank, the promise is simple. We're on your side. That's it. And whether you're launching a new business, whether you're seeking financial guidance or striving for personal growth, we are here to support, says I&M, and empower you every step of the way. So the commitment is this: innovating solutions to impacting lives. Because at I&M Bank, your aspirations fuel the mission. Discover the power of on-your-side banking. Find out more at any I&M Bank branch close to you. And remember always that I&M Bank is on your side. All right. So as we get into things this morning, we are having a conversation around bursaries. The big word is crisis, and around funds. And essentially, we're asking ourselves, what on earth is going on? Irungo Kangata is the governor for a county which we have often looked at and said this sets the mark for what a lot of people should be doing. And I've been asking ourselves the question: so what is it that the people in this county often look forward to? What is it that the people of Murang'a County have then been able to achieve as a result of the leadership? He's here this morning and he's in the hot seat. Good morning.
Fine, I'm okay.
You're well?
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Good to see you here.
Thank you.
And we're getting to a number of conversations today, and we're glad that you graced the hot seat this morning. Just before we started, you and Dennis were talking about your height, and you told us that it's possible. It's possible that, there would have been a mix in the recipe somewhere.
There's a recipe somewhere.
That somebody added salt when they should have added sugar.
Yeah. Or the salt shaker that has rice inside.
Yeah.
There's salt and there's rice.
No, or maybe Kenya is really a rainbow nation. Why are we assuming because I'm a Kikuyu, that's the only blood that flows through my veins? Ethnicity is socially constructed at some level, or at least ethnic conflict. You might be fighting your own blood on the other side.
I know.
Imagine if you just knew where you were from, then perhaps a lot of the things that we fight over would be deemed unnecessary.
That might be a strategy to de-ethnicize.
And the thing is, the only one I know called Kangata. I've never heard anyone else called Kangata. And Governor asked me whether I can check the meaning. So I went to Google. I checked what Kangata means. The Swahili version says, Kangata ni kushikilia au kungangania jambo.
Sasa wewe umeshikilia mambo
Na kungangania jambo.
Yeah?
Maybe your grandfather picked this as an appropriate name.
Well, I really don't know the historical president or the name Kangata.
Yes.
I just picked what I was given by my parents.
And you go with it.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, let's see something else that you can go with, because we're going to take a short trip to Mozambique. And it's one of the Lusophone countries of Africa. And they've had a quote that we would like you to be able to interpret for us. Is that all right? A proverb, rather. And this is what it says: fire devours the grass, but not the roots. Fire devours the grass, but not the roots. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it means when you enter into problems, you can still come back later because the root has not been impacted. It can always rise again.
Like a phoenix from the ashes. you can rise again, essentially. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, great to hear the inputs on those. As Wajiro was saying earlier, we've heard and we've seen the things that are happening, and that Irungo Kangata has been in the news often, and then more recently, for a number of things. The conversation that we're having this morning is around bursary funds and the supposed crisis that there seems to be in this particular area. We saw you at the launch, the continuation of a university, also talking about, continually talking about agriculture and what's being done for farmers and teachers and the medical sector, the health sector rather, in the county. But now we're looking at bursaries and funds. And give us an overview of what's happening at this point with all of this.
Thank you so much. The education level that is devolved is pre-primary education.
Yes, the ECDs.
But primary, high school and university remains a national government function. But there's a huge demand for education across the country, and therefore counties have been giving out bursaries. A question was raised, I think in the month of February or so, by the control budget as to the legality of counties to give out bursaries.
Yes.
And therefore, a circular that was mainly like an embargo was issued by control budget saying that going forward, she will not grant requisition for bursaries unless there is an partnership agreement between counties and national governments. The effect of that was to suspend issuance of bursaries immediately. There was no transition period. And that definitely plunged the issuance of bursaries across the country into some major problems. A good example I'll give is Mandera County, which the governor has a program which pays for all high school students full fees. No one pays any high school fees in Mandera County because the county pays all fees.
Yeah.
So that then means all those children in Mandera practically will not go to high school unless they use what we call out-of-pocket expenditure. Again, there was a legal question raised that is bursary really performing a national government function? Some argued no, this is a form of welfare, which is outside the purview of national government. Second issue was counties have been giving bursaries for the longest of period, 12 years.
Yes.
Why now? Thirdly, no notice was given. When my sister here went to have CDF declared unconstitutional, the court in its wisdom gave CDF a transition period. The same logic applies whenever you are dealing with government funds. Even if you find them unconstitutional, there is need to give those institution times to transit. But this one, there was no transition. It was just an immediate freezing.
For purposes of clarity, before you go to and finally, the sister that you mentioned is Wajiro Gikonya. She is the lead petitioner who took the case of declaring a CDF unconstitutional to court.
And we won.
And
we won 5 times. No, 4 times.
Yeah.
But the illegalities advanced by our parliament continue.
And of course, I think that will leak into this conversation that we will have today.
Yes.
Before we then go back to you and finally, Governor.
Oh, there is an issue that most counties that give bursaries, there's a law passed by the respective county assembly. Then a question then comes: can a circular torpedo a law? Because a law passed by a county assembly is a law. In law, there is what we call presumption of acts of parliaments as being constitutional unless declared otherwise by courts. The best course of action would have been from where I see it, is for like the way she had done, a person going to court, declaring, for instance, Murang'a County Assembly Act as being unconstitutional, and then once that is vacated, then Murang'a stops issuing bursary. But making an interpretation as an officer that no, this act is unconstitutional. That no, we
It
can't.
stops from tomorrow.
Stop from tomorrow. I'm not so sure that was the right procedure. Be that as it may, a case was then filed. There was a case that was filed in Nakuru.
Yeah.
And some orders were issued.
Yeah.
Basically, the orders, I think the case was by Katiba Institute.
Yes.
And plus another one petitioner. The orders simply stated that the circular by control budget needs to be upheld, and therefore Murang'a and other counties should not process bursaries. Then we went to court ourselves. We argued that the order was misconstrued. Then on the basis the order was not barring counties from raising that money this financial year. The court agreed with us. Control budget did not agree with that interpretation. She went again to seek a second clarification. Murang'a County filed contempt. Then later on we signed an agreement. We filed with CUB. We withdrew the contempt. Again, that was not is yet to be processed. So today we are waiting for the court direction on that issue in Nakuru. We hope that we might at least alleviate the
Governor, you're in court. I think the COB gave the directive maybe in February.
Yes.
We are talking about rule of law. You're a lawyer. Murang'a County is number one of the counties. Congrats. As a devolution supporter, I'm always very proud to be associated with good performing counties and governors. Number one, I think, in agriculture. Number two, in health. I think number one again also, doing very well in education. Really, we are seeing that performance. But rule of law. Since the COB has continually raised the issue of constitutionality of county governments giving bursaries. That has been in her report or in successive COB reports since those reports started getting published. Equally, they have raised the flag when national government takes over county functions, which is happening. And in fact, every day we look, road maintenance levy fund, I understand now, might even have moved completely to the national. It has been one of those contested.
Still being contested?
I don't know what that means for county roads. It's been a long standing. So this functions issue, surely rule of law cuts both ways, because the argument is a function is assigned, funds follow the functions. We've been in court severally, partnered with COB, to push for funds to come to the counties. How do we stand with counties when counties are in violation of the law? Why not get the intergovernmental agreement? Because there is a law that allows for this process to take place. So, rule of law, are you really setting the right tone and example on this one? Since February, you could have gotten the dialogue with the national government and do the intergovernmental agreement. Is that very difficult?
It's okay. First, we believe that the County Assembly of Murang'a, in its wisdom, has passed a law on bursaries. And therefore, we were requisitioning bursary based on a legal provision.
But there's a constitutional... The County Assembly cannot legislate an unconstitutionality. That's a national government function. And there is also an intergovernmental act. And the COB is a constitutional office, which is why I'm saying, as much as we have gone to court on CDF, and I think, Governor, you've been on our side, and they're not on our side, depending on where you sit. We are saying rule of law exists to protect the rights of citizens from the vagaries or the excesses of the state. Is this not an excess of the state in the county assembly then exercising, going against the rule of law in legislating an unconstitutionality?
That's okay. Go to court and have the act declared unconstitutional. A court of law, not an individual. You know, we all have different interpretation of laws. You know, laws at times I describe them as Bibles. There are so many churches that have arisen out of a single document called a Bible. But we believe the authority of interpreting a Bible is the pastor. The same logic applies when it comes to law. You believe that Murang'a County Assembly has no legal power to legislate on bursaries. I believe otherwise.
Bursaries
or
whatever. To fund a national government function.
Fine, it's okay, assuming you are correct. I have an alternative view. So you go to court. You have the act declared unconstitutional. Then we comply. But if we leave that now to an officer seated somewhere, a bureaucrat saying, no, this law is unconstitutional, I am not sure it's the right procedure.
Are you implying that the bureaucrat in question, the control of budget, a constitutional office created under what may be considered a fourth arm of government, and created because we have really coming from the excesses of a presidential system that muzzled and undermined the judiciary, muzzled and undermined parliament. The framers of the Constitution of Kenya, based on the consultations with the people of Kenya, in their wisdom, sought to enshrine constitutional offices, the Auditor General, and you know, other offices, to protect to ensure separation of powers, ensure rule of law, and to promote a culture of constitutionalism. So in your actions, are you not undermining rule of law and constitutionality and muddying the waters and confusing Kenyans who might think we have a great governor, but here he is fighting the constitution? Why not simply comply and get the intergovernmental agreement as laid out? That's my question. You may have the interpretation, but are you then saying that the Intergovernmental Act has no basis? Can the national government then come, take county functions, and use your same argument?
Let's hear the answer to the question.
Yeah, unfortunately they do.
No, my answer is that that interpretation, I don't agree with it, and the only entity that has the legal competence to declare an act on a county assembly unconstitutional is not a bureaucrat, it is the court. Be that as it may, even assuming you are correct, we now have an agreement between Murang'a and the national government. Where are the funds?
That's
the funds.
So your case then is overtaken by events.
Where are the funds?
For purposes of clarity.
We have that agreement. No, what can Murang'a do, surely? We have done that which ought to be done.
So
and by the way,
you have the agreement and you've lodged it in court and with the COB.
Yes.
So she can approve the resources.
Yes.
The question is, where's the money?
Where's the money?
Second question.
Okay. No.
This is
we have the
financial
money in
management.
We have the money in our CRF, what we call County Revenue Fund. We are waiting for the requisition to be approved.
So if you did lodge the intergovernmental agreement, why continue with the case?
No, exactly. We have withdrawn our
It has been withdrawn.
Yeah.
The question is, and I think
we have withdrawn. Yeah. We are not interested in anything. So I'm just saying, where is the money? But also, let me also ask you a question. Can you now go, let's say, for instance, and I'm sure there are hospitals, let's say dispensaries or health centers, level 2, level 3, or even level 4s, which under the law, they ought to be in the
county.
I'm sure there are some currently that are still managed by the national government in some place. Are you saying you would go there and start plucking machines?
Just because it's unconstitutional.
Just because it's unconstitutional. You find a patient there sleeping. You say, what is happening here is unconstitutional. I pluck this, you die. Can you do that?
No, I think that sets the
No.
question. I
There's
think
a moral.
No, that's
point.
that's
There is a
very
moral.
one-sided.
Just a minute.
Allow me to finish.
Kindly, 10.
No, allow me to finish.
I think what is necessary
Allow me
is
to
to
finish.
explain what the bursaries do for students in the county.
Allow me to finish. There's a real moral issue from where I see it that we may argue about constitutionality, law, but behind that argument there are real children, human children, suffering out there.
Now, Governor,
Allow me to finish, because at times I feel we, those of us who are somewhere, at times we don't see the human cost of some of these problems that we render. This is something that has been granted to the counties for the longest of period. The best course of action would have been to give counties a notice. You tell them, okay, fine, you have been doing something wrong, unconstitutional, I'll give you 2 months, going forward, blah, 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 such. But surely, you must understand this requisition, and behind them, they are humans, they are children. Imagine from February, like here in Nairobi, no single child in Nairobi who receives county bursary has received in support. Muranga has a program that I found called Nyota Yetu. It was even started by the former regime, where orphans and children were being educated from Form 1 to Form 4, fully sponsored. They are currently at home. And not because the county does not have funds, just because of this dispute. And that time they will not recover at all. It will not. Time is running. We are now how many days after second term started? They are at home. Even if we resolve this issue, those children will have lost 1 or 2 months.
Okay.
So I'm trying to argue that.
I understand, but I need to make this
it is
clarification, because there are folks who are hearing this, but there is no clarity in terms of where this money goes. Please, the bursaries that are sent out to these children for school, that is now in contention, what does it cater for? These are children in primary school? These are children in high school? These are at the ECD level? What does it cater for?
High school mainly.
These are high school mainly, right? And obviously we know that there is no free education per se. That is still a myth. So it takes care of essentially the bit that you're asked to pay for that capitation does not cover, right?
You're asking a question.
Yes, I'm
asking.
asking.
Is that the case?
I'm asking.
Yes.
Is that the money? Is that what the money goes
Yes,
to?
yes.
It takes care of the windfall that capitation does
Yes.
not cover.
Yes.
And
The gap.
Here, how much are we talking about in terms of a gap usually? Because
It depends. If you are in day school, on average, per term, that's about 5,000 or 4,000 per term.
What
Right.
does CDF do in this picture?
If you are
Hang on,
in,
10.
if you are in boarding,
Yes.
per annum, that's about 40,000.
Okay.
Or let's say 50,000 per
Okay.
annum.
The capitation
now-
for boarding is how much?
I'm not so sure. I'm referring to the out of
Okay.
pocket
To the
expenditure.
out of pocket
shortfall.
expenditure, because there are other
Independent.
things that need to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. So we have the bursaries that come from county to take care of this. But then we also see that members of parliament are dishing out checks at the beginning of every school term, more or less, that range between 1,000 to 7,000 shillings. So it would appear as though there's a duplicity of effort here, and there's also a duplicity of revenue that is going to the same students. So there's money coming from NGCDF, there's money coming from county bursary, there's money coming from wherever else, and very simply put, it shouldn't be. So would you see that there would be some sense in what the COB was saying when she says, hang on a minute, this actually should not be happening, because according to the Constitution, it should run in this manner, but it isn't. Is there sense in that? That the county should not be the one paying this windfall?
Because there are other funds.
Because there are funds coming from NGCDF. We even have a president's fund, for goodness sake. There are so many things that are happening at the same time. So the county funds essentially should be doing something else.
They are never enough.
The funds are never enough to do that something else, or they shouldn't be going. If they were not going to this bursary, which there are other funds that should handle, shouldn't then they be able to cover for other things?
And should our leaders not sit together? County sit. You know, the County Government Act anticipates the governor will set up an intergovernmental forum. I forget how it's phrased. I think it's section 41. I can't remember. Where political leaders are supposed to engage around the county government plan and budget. And because our devolution is framed on the basis of consultation, cooperation, and coordination, not adversarial. Mm-hmm. This is not a competition between national and county government. It's not a competition between parliament and senate. These people are supposed to work for Kenyans and are supposed to cooperate. So I'm sure, and maybe I should ask, have you set up an intergovernmental forum for political leaders to consult so that you don't have to fight over intergovernmental agreements or lack of, to consult so that you don't have duplicity and gaps and overlaps,
so that we don't have children sitting at home?
So children aren't sitting at home when there is money that is going down there and maybe getting into the wrong pockets because these systems are siloed. They are not speaking to each other. They are not, and then we don't have visibility. One of the gaps is that we don't have visibility of where this money goes. We don't have consolidated evidence reports. So, Governor, yes, you're fighting a worthy fight. All students should be in school. No child should lose a day. But could this money be going into other pockets?
Okay, first, that forum was declared unconstitutional. It was if I'm not wrong, it was an act of parliament that was enacted through the effort of Sang when he was a senator.
The act, yes, but the provision in the CGA is to be operationalized by the county government. That is the law that the county should be enacting. The illegality was that the national, I think it was a Senate Act. The Senate was then deemed it cannot enact this provision for counties. So the County Assembly should be the one setting it up. And in fact, it's a governor's forum.
It's okay. Be that as it may, the point is, what CDF give as bursaries is never enough. There are huge gaps of funding, and education being such an important endeavor, there's a huge public push for counties to support bursaries, which then makes it somehow important for counties to come in and support bursaries. It would be to our own interests, by the way, if those funds were redirected to other needs. Of course, we have so many other needs.
Yeah.
But education becomes such an important endeavor that no one can ignore. And therefore, just like Waswahili say that kidole kimoja hakiwi chawa. The MP pushes, the governor pushes, and yes, there is a good point of maybe a better coordination would be important, particularly to ensure you don't have certain beneficiaries getting everything from every member from parliament and the county.
Yeah.
I support that. It makes sense. But I can tell you, if members of parliament were told just to handle that, the gap is still
too large.
And I can tell you some counties. You know, the current CS for sports Salim Vuri, his greatest legacy in Kwale was educating children.
Yes.
And he did it so well that he was able to push in, sorry to say, but the very fact the current governor is a lady, Madam Achani, a lawyer, I know she's a Muslim, yeah? And she was able to be elected. And she was a deputy of Salim.
Yes.
And I can tell you that has something to do with the work that they did together of educating Kwale children. So I'm just telling you how important education is and the role the counties do, like in Kwale or even Mandera, that you cannot really redirect those funds to other important endeavors within the current setup. But I support if we could do it in a collegiate manner.
Right.
Yeah, I have no problem to that. But for me, of more importance is that these disagreements have caused children of Kenya to lose 1 or 2 or 3 months
out of school. I'd like to take a break at this point. We're talking with the governor of Murang'a County, Rungu Kangata, and asking certain questions. But the case has also been made to collapse all of these funds that are all over the place into one fund that is going to educate children. I mean, it really does sound like it's a no-brainer, but it would appear as though sometimes there is a benefit that is achieved to have all of these things all over the place. And the benefit is not being seen by the children. Someone else is benefiting. We'll take a break and come back and look at some of this a few minutes from now. We're talking with the governor of Murang'a County. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. In a world where change is constant, there is something.
I am Sam Melby, and I play Dave Australia, the firstborn brother on the show Family Affair.
A family affair.
Hello and welcome to Health and Wellness, where we explore new health trends, wellness tips.
In the mental space, we never ask what is wrong. We always ask what happened.
We feel the pain of our patients.
And ways to just embrace a happier and healthy life. Small changes can make a very big difference to your overall health.
For this intervention, we don't use any general anesthesia.
Oh, really?
So the patient is awake with us, talking to us throughout the procedure.
If you start having chest pain and you're sweating a lot and you're not doing any physical activity, that's a very ominous sign that you're actually having a heart attack.
To be honest, we've actually done a CS with Mulika Muizi. You're being Mulikwad for you to remove that baby.
So let's incorporate these tips to our daily routine just to ensure our immune system is healthy and strong.
Join me, Zaitun Ali, every Sunday at 6 p.m. on Health and Wellness.
That melody. Tumeleta melody ya kusifu Mungu Baba, spiritually na body, injili na bamba, tumeleta melody, tumeleta melody.
And Kangata, and asking her questions about, the bursary funds crisis and what ought to take precedent, the rule of law or the protection of those who've been benefiting from these bursaries. Dennis?
There's a context around the politics of bursaries in this country. And I dare call it the politics of education aid, where it's so politicized, especially every election cycle, we seem to be having these conversations. And I circle back to the core issue here, because there's the whole idea of who controls the money, how much is allocated, and so on and so forth. But if we go to the Auditor General's remarks and the concerns that have been constantly been raised, is about the disbursement of these millions in bursaries without proper documentation, one, and also highlighting the need for improved oversight and accountability for these allocations. In the last financial year, the government allocated approximately 56 billion to the education sector. However, if you go to check the specific distribution of these funds to individual students at, the constituency level, at the county level, remains so unclear due to the lack of a unified bursary system. And that's the reason why these calls for consolidation and the arguments around it and the discussion on the various bursary funds from the CDF to the county. I was reading some of the NGO bursaries, ministry scholarships, all these things. Shouldn't all these things be consolidated in one transparent and efficient system so that we move outside the politics of who controls what, how much is controlled? Should this be in one system?
I have no problem myself if we could consolidate bursaries, and if that consolidation would then make, let's say, high school education free, I would definitely be one of those who would join in an endeavor that would make particularly secondary school education free. And why not? Maybe what we might need to check is whether that basket, once consolidated, will be enough to achieve truly free high school education. I don't know whether that much have been done. But I'll be very interested to see whether that is possible.
Yeah, because I think the things that we see, unfortunately, are symptoms of a problem that started a long time ago. Because if we're asking a question after the fact, that in terms of the money that is being given, and we would assume that when a budget is being done, 656 billion shillings, we're assuming that when that budget is being done, all of these factors have been taken into consideration, and they've said, okay, you know what? In order to have education run from here to here, this is the amount of money that we need. The processing of the process begins, and they say, yeah. And then they say, yes, we will allocate you this money. So if we start to have to ask the question after that, actually, if we were to collapse all of these funds that we see all over the place, would this money be enough to then cater for the windfall? But my question is, why don't we say in the very beginning that even this 656 billion shillings that we put towards education, understanding that not all of it goes towards paying for tuition and such, but that all of this extra money, which is clearly available, that goes towards bursary and also goes towards the duplicitous nature of giving out funds, if all of that money is put into this one fund, I think we would be amazed at the miracles that could actually happen.
Can I just jump in there on two grounds? One, this idea of harmonization is not a new discussion.
No, it's not.
And not only is it not a new discussion, but the proliferation of funds and the fragmentation of funds has been increasing. It's very political. It's also got a lot of interest, because everywhere there is a fund, you can rest assured there is administration, those benefits are accruing to certain people. So actually the larger question becomes is, how do we get accountability in these funds? Because in 2000, and I think it was 2006-07, KIPRA did an assessment of funds, because funds really started in this country. There were always funds, but major funds started with the reforms of the local government in the 90s, and then under the Kibaki administration, the direct funding mechanism started. And the audit by KIPRA, we also did an audit as civil society. We saw there is duplication in terms of administration, of course. There is double funding in terms of funds going, one fund, 3 funds can go and do one job, because we are not auditing on the ground. There is lack of incrementality, there is lack of impact. So really, we are talking about a lot of waste and a lot of cartels, or rather, a lot of corruption around where this money is going. We met again with Parliament in around 2018, before we went to court on the division of revenue. And we asked the question again, why aren't counties getting money? There's all this fragmented money, can't it be consolidated? And the staffers of Parliament, who are technical, many of who are technical experts, said, where is the audit of where this money is going? And they were saying, especially CDF at that time, they were saying, audit this money, because this money is going into private pockets. The last point, as we continue this proliferation, the IMF then comes into the picture, and we come into fiscal consolidation, and they begin to slash social spending. So it's possible part of this squeeze, I think it's not even possible, apart from Kenya Kwanza backward policies of privatizing things, they promise to do bottom-up. Governor, I hope when you meet with your party leaders, you tell them that you've betrayed the people. Bottom-up is not slashing money that is supposed to help Kenyans. Then IMF comes to compound issues. So really, Governor, we are saying USAID is pulling out, so this kind of free money that Kenya's been having is disappearing. Kenyans are overtaxed. Children need to go to school. People need health education. Things have to change. We can't continue this political infighting. Really, we don't have the luxury. So what are our political leaders going to do to deal with the root cause of the problem?
Okay, let's go to that.
I think the idea of a bursary is usually based on the notion that we don't have enough money to give to all students. And therefore, there has to be established a fund to choose those who deserve and those who do not deserve. Please, everyone, can you take your phone and you use your calculator? You do a simple calculation. Wanjiru, can you say Muranga has 260 day schools. On average, each has 200
students.
Yes, multiply by 10,000. Tell me, how much is that? 260 multiplied by 200. Half a billion. See? For you to give free day school in Muranga, you need half a billion. Isn't it?
Right now, what?
So now, the bus, we have 7 constituencies in Muranga.
Yes, but half a billion.
Hold on. Allow him to clarify that. Yeah.
Each, I think, bursary kit is about 50 million, if I'm not wrong. So multiply by 50? 50 million times 7 is?
350 million.
CDF now.
CDF is how much in total in the county?
No, on average, each constituency allocates 50 million for bursaries.
50 million for bursaries. But, I mean, the quantum of CDF is much larger.
No. See, I'm saying, let's say Kiharu constituency or Kangema or Katanga or Kandara. Each MP, I think the limit is about 50 million. So 50 million times 7 is?
350 million.
50 million.
Okay. That's 0.3 B.
So that means
so there's 230 B left uncovered.
Yes. So there's a funding deficit of how much?
It's
230 billion.
Million.
Yeah, 230 million.
230 million. So even if, and you see,
and then there's the national government.
Just hold on, just let him finish this point, please.
So meaning, if MPs were just to say we only concentrate with this school, they would only give 350, there'll be a funding deficit of 230 million. And
then national government is giving.
No, they don't.
No, but national government has the funding secondary school. I don't know what it's called. It used to be the SSEB.
No, they have like a small. It has no.
It's 10,000.
It is no one even notices it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm talking of practical money within the grassroots. You are yet to go to high school. No, to boarding.
To boarding. This is day school.
This is day school. Assume Murang'a County government decides to join in that effort. We look for 250. Yeah? We do 250. MPs give us 50 million. Probably. We would then be able to offer day school education. But you are yet to consider boarding. And no boarding, okay, we have about 80. We have about 60. 60 times 60 schools in Murang'a.
Yes.
Times 500. Yeah? 60 times 500
is 3,000. 30,000.
60 schools times 500 students times on average 60,000. What's the amount?
Comes to about 180 million.
So meaning you have to think, where do you get 180 million per annum to consider our boarding schools if you want to give out and out.
And this is just Murang'a County that we're talking about now. We're looking at the 7 constituencies that make up the county. This is the amount of money that is needed to send children to school, not having considered boarding. Well, now we've considered boarding, right? But then where does the money that comes from the national government that is sent directly to schools that covers capitation? It used to be 22,400 and so odd. It was reduced to 17,000. So that's what has been accessed over the last 5 years or so. So what happens with that money? Or are we saying that this is money that is needed outside of the 17,000 that goes towards capitation?
What does capitation cover? Is it bursaries or does it cover running of
tuition?
No, it means
tuition.
Yes.
Basically it means if we are paying 10,000 per in out of pocket day schools education, without capitation they'll be paying 25,000. If I'm not wrong, they give 22,000 per.
It's been reduced to 17 because we are told that 5,000 is retained at the ministry for whatever reason. So what actually now goes is 17,447 or something like that.
So this doesn't add up, Governor. If we use your own arithmetic and we now factor in capitation at 17,000, this would be for day or boarding. Let's assume it's for day. You said we multiply by 260 schools times 200 students. That doesn't even add up because that figure comes to like almost 900 million. That doesn't make sense. But not all are all the students eligible for capitation?
Yes, every single student is eligible for capitation.
So even as we sit here, Governor, looking at the capitation from the national government, looking at CDF, the county shouldn't even be in this picture. Even if we look at these two, this money should be enough. Could it be that money is being released and pocketed, and what you're doing is actually now filling in the gaps of money that is being stolen or misdirected? So should you not, it's fine, students should be in school, but do you not have a duty to deal with the causal problem of this shortfall? Could it be national government is saying they are sending money, and then as they speak to the IMF, that money doesn't get released? Should that not be a big issue? Does a government that doesn't release money for education deserve to be in power?
What are your thoughts
on
that?
I'm saying,
I need him to answer,
You're putting the burden on taxpayers because all this money comes from the taxpayer's pocket. And then it's going into somebody else's pocket, and there's a lot of politics, and children stay home. Please tell us, what is the root problem, and are you going to assist Kenyans get to the bottom of it?
Well, it's okay, but allow me not to be the spokesman of another arm of government. I can only speak things that are within my purview. I have no doubt my friend Mwaura would answer that. But
Can you really escape that under Article 6.2? You can't answer like that because national and county governments work together. So when you speak, we assume you have spoken to them and you've agreed. And where you've not agreed, you do the dispute. Where is the dispute over education? Why is it in court being framed as money from Murang'a County instead of a dispute that national government isn't releasing money?
Well, as everyone has correctly stated, remember our role as counties on matters of high school education is quite limited, very limited. In fact, is once you're done with bursary, that's it.
Okay.
As to whether
that's not constitutional. Don't mislead us.
As to whether capitation has been sent to high school, I think that's the whole logic of us having parliamentarians, because their role is to represent. You see, and they, particularly on matters of national government, I have no doubt that they ought to raise these issues at the National Assembly Committee on Education, and because that's where these issues are canvassed. But also, okay, that maths for me, by the way, is not really bad. It shows for me that if members of parliament and counties, they work together, it is possibly they can deliver free day school education.
Our time is running out.
The deficit would be in body and also college.
You're advancing an
so
illegality.
in terms of what would happen in the near future, where we're looking at children going back to school, really quickly, as our time is running out, Governor, what would then be the solution?
Yes, me personally, I support the idea of a collegiate approach to this problem. Particularly to render day school education as free. And for me, I would really support such effort, if that includes us surrendering the support to whoever who will see this money we are fighting for. We are headed towards that direction. How? Because I have told the high school, the teachers of secondary school, give me number 1 to number 10.
Yes.
I pay full.
Yeah.
Anyone who comes number 1 to number 10 in all day schools in Murang'a is educated fully
by the county. I hear you.
The logic there is to, one, it is objective. It's not subjective. Yeah. 2, the assumption is that the people who go to these schools tend to be from the lower income.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
3, the day the idea of consolidating bursary funds come into fruition, they will find Murang'a has catered number 1 to 10. They just start from number 11
and keep going.
And
That's
we
a
are
great
done.
place to end on. We want to thank you so much for being here this morning. Governor of the county of Murang'a, Irungo Kangata, has been our guest this hour. Still sticky, thorny issues, but important for us to talk about them and see what happens coming into the future. Thank you so much for being here. Until the next time that we talk. Good morning. It's 9:01.